So welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know, I'm Larry Nutt with Fancher Mortgage Group and the 2021 chair for the Downtown MIBOR division. 2020 was a year. Didn't think we'd make it here. Pretty excited. So kind of the order of what we'll do today, a little housekeeping up front. We'll have some announcements up front, of course, and then as the meeting gets rolling, I've prepared some questions for our panelists, of course, but I'd like to encourage as much audience participation as possible. So if you have any questions, make sure you're using the chat feature and sending them straight to Rosie Newman, direct message her, and then we'll kind of filter them and work them into the conversation as we're going along. So kind of, if you're new to the downtown division, obviously we encompass the greater downtown area. Janet, can everyone else hear me? Okay. So, we're the downtown division, of course. Kind of my whole mentality with everything is, things that are important to me is diversity, equality, and community. That's kind of what we encompass. We want to engage our members. We want to create a sense of community because that's how we all strive to be better in our jobs as well, right? So I'm working with the rest of our executive team to kind of develop a blueprint, if you will, for the entire year that kind of follows those rails, if you will. So Rosie, if you could hit the next slide, please. Maybe.
I'm getting the rainbow wheel of death on my computer, so okay. Sorry.
So I will first, the next page slide is going to be our executive team. So obviously myself, I'm chair. We have our vice chair, which is Miss Crystal White, who's also congratulations on becoming the new managing broker for Platt Collective. We really appreciate that. That's nice, great for her. Now we're rolling here. There we go. And then we have our secretary, which is Rosie Newman. If you don't know her, reach out and message her. Todd Callion is our treasurer, our bookkeeper extraordinaire. And then our past chair, Lucy Chalian. I could not have done anything. Hello? I could not have done anything this year without her help and knowledge. She's a huge resource. Laura Paul is our community liaison with Brookside School. And then Michael Albrecht is our social committee chair. With 2020, we've got some weird things, or 2021, we're this weird. So we're planning some things like that for social events. And then Jen Short, of course, our panelist and District 1 rep. So thank you guys for being here today. And so next slide, please. So our sponsors, of course, we have, we try to do as much as we can with our sponsors. We really appreciate it. ATA, Century 21 Sheets, Ray Insurance Group, Milestone Home Lending, House Masters, Davis Homes, Elements Financial, Meridian Title Corporation, and Platt Collective. We have some room for additional sponsors. If you have any questions, please, email me.
I don't understand. Why is it not?
Not sure who's chatting in the.
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
Yeah. So next year, we for those who don't know, we raise money for the Brookside Elementary School every year. That school goes to their Eagle store, which allows the students to purchase things, school supplies, etc. And then we also, in a non-COVID world, volunteer there at their food pantry. Rosie, can we make sure everyone's muted? So we volunteer, we spend time at their food pantry when we're allowed to, of course. So if you would like to donate, we'd really appreciate it. Please Venmo, we have that up there on the screen, Jen Short, and then we'll run a tally at the end of the meeting to see how much we've donated. We were allowed to give a lot of money last year as well as a result of this fundraiser. So it's definitely a big, ask for us that helps out our local school there. So, and next we'll have Michael Albrecht with ATA national title for a quick. He's our platinum sponsor for this month, our highlight sponsor. We really appreciate it.
For sure. First off, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope everybody had a great year and we're excited about 2021. I'll keep it short and sweet, but for all of you that don't know, I am Michael Albrecht with ATA National Title. Most of you probably also know my better half, Julie Catton. We are located in the central metro area. We've got offices in Fishers, Keystone at the Crossing, Mass Ave, Greenfield, and Greenwood. So we're kind of all around the city to help you with all of your needs. So we would love to thank everybody that worked with us last year and would love to work with all of you in 2021. We're excited. I think it's going to be a great year. I know we were all kind of surprised at how crazy last year was, and I think this year is going to be just as good. So cheers to 2021.
Yes, thank you, Michael. You guys have helped me out this year, I'm sure, as many other people too. So happy to have you. Hopefully things are a little more normal in 2021, of course. But all right, so now let's get into the reason that we're all here. So once again, I'm Larry Nutt. So we've got our panelists, Mark, Chris, and Jen, and I'll have them introduce themselves shortly. Once again, if you have any questions, please make sure to message Rosie directly in the chat. So Mark, Chris, and Jen, I'm going to ask you 3 questions for yourself. First, how long have you been with your company? How did you get into real estate? And what's the first thing you're going to do after the pandemic? So I've been with my company for a couple of years. I'm with Fancher Mortgage. I got into real estate through banking and after college. And I'm going to go see live music. I don't care if it's a Bee Gees cover band. If it's live music, I'm going to see it. I don't care. That's the first thing I want to do. So Jen, you go ahead and start.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is awesome to see so many of you, of your smiling faces. And I thank you for taking time to join our division meeting. And I'm watching my Venmo. I'm gonna multitask and watch Venmo and give a tally as money comes in. Larry, Bee Gees cover band sounds awesome. I've seen many a Beatles cover band in Vegas. So sounds good. I have been in the business. I've been with my company for 6 years, been in the business for about 16. And I started by flipping property and flipped a couple properties. And then the market did that lovely downturn dip. And coincidentally, I also found out I was pregnant. So I thought, we need to kind of do something else. So my husband's an architect. I started doing field measuring for him. I'm not very good at field measuring nor working with my husband. So I got licensed. And then let's see, what was the last one? What I'm going to do?
Yep. What are you going to do?
Travel. So I've already booked. Next October, you will find me in Alaska. Next December, you will find me in New York City.
Perfect. All right, Mark, your turn there.
Yeah, morning, everybody. Great to see all of you. Mark Nottingham, and I've been in the business for 12 years, been with the company that I'm with now for 10, as of this month, actually. Gosh, what am I going to do first? Larry, you probably stole my answer, but I'll say I'm going to go to a sporting event. Live music and sporting events are 2 of my favorite things to do. So the time of year may not work out, but I'll go with a Pacers game.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I missed that. I miss Pacers games so much. I think that's the thing I miss the most. So.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what about you? Hope you're on mute there. Hang on.
There we go. Hello, everyone. Chris Kugelhahn. Been in real estate for 22, 23 years. Worked for a builder prior to starting the real estate company with my 2 business partners in 2000. So we've been here locally in Indianapolis for about 20 years. We have, I think, 13 other offices around the country, from the West Coast to the East Coast to Florida, that we all own and manage. So I've been doing that since 2004. And what am I going to do? Well, I bought myself a kind of a Christmas present this year. It was disguised as a present for my son, who's a sophomore in high school. We're going to go see a concert at Red Rocks in Denver in August. So hopefully the pandemic is over and we're good to go there. So
Well, that sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a bucket list venue for me. I'd like to go. I love Colorado, so that'd be nice. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. So let's get into the first question. So you guys, anyone, either of you can, or all three of you can answer it however you want to do it. I'll kind of lob these questions up for you guys, and then we'll just, oh, I see we're pinning people down. And we'll go from there. So first question is about office culture. Each of your brokerages and offices have a close-knit family feel. How, as a manager, have you been able to nurture that in a virtual world? Have you been able to create a culture of connectivity? And is culture even important in a virtual setting?
I'll take that one. I'll go first, if that's okay with you guys. Okay.
for sure.
So I think we can all agree that culture is huge, right? And I like to say I don't create the culture. I can't. None of us can. Chris can't. Mark can't. It's got to be. It's kind of like the extra man on the field on a football team. It's kind of like that je ne sais quoi. How do you describe it? But it's absolutely essential. And so I think one of the key things that we did is, and it goes back to the whole subject of pivots and predictions. We had to pivot. We had to pivot really well and, kind of cut through the noise and the craziness of everything that was happening around us. And, I think one thing that was really key was creating a clear stream and a consistent stream of communication for all of the agents, because we had information coming at us from every direction, right? Within our industry, without our industry, are we deemed essential? Can we do business tomorrow? How do we do open houses? Can we do showings? Mm-hmm. So I think culture is huge. And so, everybody, I think people were buying a lot of Zoom stock come March. I know I personally did, but culture was huge. Culture is huge. And in the Zoom environment, I'm sure you guys have this, did the same thing, but it was consistently just still having those face-to-face interactions, whether it be one-on-one or with the entire team. Seeing how everybody was feeling and just making, keeping everybody kind of calm, but everybody allowed to have a voice and express what they were feeling.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, Jen. I think that, culture is really what I think helped us get through this year. And fortunately, when I was thinking about this question, you like what Jen said, it's not, you can't just pull culture out of a box, or you just can't start using the term great culture or whatever when you need to. It's something that takes time, years to develop. You massage culture, but you just can't say you have it. And I think that is really important this year. We've talked a lot about it for many years and we've been preaching social media a lot, for example. We try and get as many agents as engaged with social media as possible. And I think that was another huge factor this year when everybody was sitting at home, that, our team was completely, we were preaching, spend more time on Facebook, spend more time on LinkedIn. And you don't hear that very often, to tell people to actually spend more time on social media and, not just like something, but comment on something. And, when you have a couple hundred agents or 10 agents, and everybody's buying into that, you get a real sense of community. the culture part of it, I agree, Jen. It's hard to define what that is. I mean, you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
You know, kind of, it develops on its own. So,
Yeah.
but certainly is one of the most important things, I think, in brokerages. I mean, it's a strategic advantage for many agents to be a part of a good culture and have that sense of community. So I would rank it as number one.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I think Jen and Chris both made really good points about the importance of culture and how that feeds into agents being at their best, right? The culture of their company certainly does. I think something that we learned this year, at least our company, but I think as an industry and other industries probably learned this too, but you know, there's been a lot of communication about brick and mortar. Is the concept of office, was it already dying? Was it already on its deathbed? The actual physical office presence, right? In our industry, it's clearly changed. I think something we learned this year is that it still really matters. I think we had great opportunity to like rethink it. You know, like I think Larry, the way that you posed the question was in a digital world, in a virtual world, how do you foster connection and communication? Jen gave a couple of really good examples. I think we learned that actual physical office presence matters for a couple of reasons, and this is one of them. That there is a sense of loss in 2020 from some of those very difficult to measure, but you know it when you see it, type of value creation and cultural markers from being in the same place physically at the same time, which obviously has not been the norm for this year. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. And I don't know that office is ever going to be the same as it was, but I think we've actually seen the importance of being physically present with each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, and we all have vocal leaders in our offices, right? And it's kind of hard to have that vocal leader that you go to with questions or whatever in a virtual world. So I'm anxious to get back to some sorts of that, of course. Maybe a blending of the two, right? We've kind of experienced that. Well, thank you. So our next question, switching gears a little bit, is forecasting. Obviously, the name of this meeting is predictions and pivots, right? So it's right about that. So forecasting 2021 and then the parallels to 2020, of course. I know myself, each December I work on and develop yearly professional and personal goals. Obviously 2020's goal planning was a little wrecked. Didn't anticipate the hurdles that were going to happen. You know, we could not have forecasted any of these things, of course. How were you able to adapt your goals to a marketplace that was shifting due to COVID? How did you coach your agents, and how are you coaching your agents to be successful in 2021? Because hopefully we are the inverse problem, right? Whereas 2020, we started normal and ended in a quarantine, pandemic, weird world. We're starting 2021 this way. Maybe in the end of the year, we're back to normal. So how are you doing that? Whoever wants to take that first.
Yeah, I think it depends on what time of year you're asking in 2020. What we were encouraging agents to do in terms of their activity and their goals, say in March or April, was quite a bit different than by the time we got to July. Anybody that in March could have predicted what the second half of the year was going to look like in residential real estate, they're either really lucky or they're a lot smarter than me, because it's not what I thought the second half was going to look like. So yeah, we went through like, hey, maybe you need to rethink goals and what are your priorities for the second half of the year. And then all of a sudden, as an industry, we set records, right? And so I think though, it is evidence that we are in an industry that is vital to like a lot of people's lives, vital to our economy. Pretty darn, it's not that our industry can't go through downturns. Clearly we have and we will. But the way in which our industry reacted, I think, is evidence of how vital it is and how important of a service we provide to our clients. And so I think it certainly shifted the way that agents connected with clients and provide service to them. But just in the way that Chris and Jen and I were talking about as brokerages connecting to agents, I think the one thing that would be consistent for agents from last year to this year, find a way to meaningfully connect with your clients. If you can find a way to meaningfully connect with your clients and deliver service to them, there will always be value to that.
Once
So
again,
look-
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mark. What we were talking about in those 30 or 45 days of complete uncertainty, whether, the scary part, what we were, telling our agents to do, and we're doing it ourselves, is, to reach out and solidify those relationships. Just check in with your friends, your family, your sphere, your past clients. It's not about getting referrals right now. It's just about, showing that you care. And, I think that's been a cornerstone probably for many realtors for a long time. So not much change there, but we were definitely promoting it a lot more during that time. And, and I think that's what we're continued to promote it, because you realize, how valuable it is to real estate, and the success of our agents is to make sure that those past client in your sphere those relationships are strong. And we haven't stopped, pushing that same sentiment, even when the market changed in the middle of the summer. It's something that I think will be a cornerstone for our brokerage for a long time, that, putting that up on a pedestal, making sure that the agents know how valuable it is. And, so that was a good thing that came out of it for us. I think, it's just, we really had to solidify the relationships. And
Yeah.
what a great time to do it during COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and Mark hit the nail on the head, right? Like creating, you can be the key. I mean, that's the whole foundation's motto, right? Like be the key. And in these scenarios where it's not revenue generating from a motivation standpoint, you just care about your past clients and friends and stuff. So I like that. Jen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, nothing groundbreaking, but when all of this happened, we all kind of were able to take a pause, right? Take a pause and kind of work in our business instead of on our business. Like, okay, what can we focus on? What can we highlight on? What have we been too busy to do, in these last 6 months?
Yeah.
But just echoing what Mark and Chris said, there's a saying I like to say, and it's, people don't care, and I didn't create this, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you can call them and talk to them about the market or spout statistics and give them data. They don't care. It's picking up the phone call, it's cementing those relationships, and it's finding out how people are. A lot of them were scared. I mean, a lot of realtors were scared. We didn't know it was essential for a while, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? But there's another thing I like to say is that, we can't let the market define our success, right? So I did encourage my agents not to change their goals. Like, don't diminish those. Hang on, hang tight. Don't lower your expectations for what you set to do in 2020. It may need to be done a little differently, but don't let them, because the markets, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be an outside factor,
Yep.
Interest rates are going to rise. Some outside factor is always going to, be a factor, but don't let that define how you do your business or how you define your success or your goals.
Yeah. Control what you can control, right? Don't focus on the
100%.
100%. Yeah. Well, thanks, Guy. Those are great. Obviously, it was different too. I didn't even factor in the whole work from home with children going to school as well. A component of that, because that's a whole different, we could have a meeting on that alone.
Oh, that was a circus. That was just a circus.
Yeah. All right. So
Even appendage, yeah.
let's see if we got any questions in the chat, make sure that are applicable to this. Yeah, we've got some questions, but I'll save these for at the end. So next is on inventory, everyone's favorite problem. So it's not new, but the summer of 2020 exposed how big of a problem we have with inventory, right? Whether it's multiple offer situations. I mean, I'm even seeing it now. I've got a client who wrote a pre-approval, and I wrote a pre-approval before, wrote an offer. There's 17 offers on a house. It's January 4th, right? How were you able to coach your agents, clients to get under contract and appraise and close? What does this tell us moving forward with our market?
Well, I know the shortage of inventory, really, it wasn't anything new for us. We're in a few markets where literally there weren't any properties for years. So we did have a somewhat of a blueprint for Indianapolis, but even Indianapolis, if you look at the last 5 years, the trend is, it's literally like this. And I'm not sure when it stops. If it goes to 0 or negative, but I don't know when it's ever going to start going back up. We might have a few months in the summer where it does go up, but it'll never be at the levels of where it is the previous years. And so I think it's something we all have to get used to. And what we're doing here is we're looking at alternative, where can we find inventory? Some places, we have some agents that can get very creative in finding inventory, but I think the most important thing that we're training right now is just to set the proper expectations with the buyers and sellers up front. What it's going to be like when your house hits the market, or what it's going to be like, when there's 14 offers on the table for your favorite home. You need to be, the days of going below list are gone, and getting that, that perception or that mentality into the buyer's mind up front just makes the transaction go a lot smoother. We do have some tools that we've used that are living documents for, how to, write a winning offer.
Right.
There's a percentage of agents out there that are just top-notch agents, have thousands of transactions, and they know how to craft a winning offer, but there's a lot of agents that don't. And, you see, and those are the agents I think that got really frustrated this year, and, you have to live in this market. You have to be completely invested in it, because if you're not, there's no way you can set the proper expectations with a buyer, for example, if you're not out there doing it every single day. And that's how we're tackling it. But.
Yeah. What about you, Jen? Have you, echoing everything that he said, that Chris said.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about setting expectations with your buyer and seller. Quick story just from yesterday, I had an agent who was trying to schedule a showing on a property, and this particular seller thought that they could only accept 1 showing per day. And they were freaking out because they were getting the multiple showing requests. And I thought, oh my goodness. So, the agent finally got in, but a hot property downtown in a solid price point, it's going to go fast.
Yeah.
But the other thing I always like to echo is, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, is, we carry around a very expensive little device that more often is not used for what it's intended, and it's communication and talking to people. So it's, building a relationship with the agent on the other side, right? Picking up the phone going, hey, what are the terms that are amenable to the seller? What do I need to write in this offer so I know it will get accepted?
Yeah.
Because the thing you don't want to do is to put, 30 days in for closing. And then it's like, oh man, you wrote a great offer, but the seller needs 45 days. So we're going to shoot over that counter and we're going to accept it. We're going to send over that. And then all of a sudden they get another great offer, right? It happened. And you verbally told your buyer, oh, we're getting the counter back. There's only one thing they're countering, and we're going to get you this house. Well, guess what? Counter offers can be redacted, and people can go with other offers that do come in. So my big key is communication and building a relationship with the agent on the other side.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's just become even bigger in this tight market of having that great relationship. So you know how to write a winning offer that rises to the top, like Chris said.
Yeah. Mark, I know that you've kind of, this is a plug. Andrew Huber's not here, but if you want to listen to Mark's voice more, he's on a podcast with Andrew.
No
But
one wants to do that.
I did listen to it. I thought it was fantastic. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Did any of you see that? I love this. There's like a joke image of a text message exchange between a couple agents that made its way around social media. An agent said like, "Hey, I think you made a mistake. You sent me a blank purchase agreement." And the buyer's realtor responded by saying like, "No, I'm tired of working with these people. You guys just fill that out for us and we're good." I don't know if that's the right strategy, but you know what, Larry, you asked about what does this mean going forward? So I think we always have to be careful about making predictions into the future because we don't know what's going to happen, but you do the best you can with the data that's in front of you. And Chris and Jen both referenced this. List price is just a number. And I think that's a part of the reality of our marketplace right now is you have to rethink what is list price. When I got into the industry in 2008, list price was a very different thing than it is now. And if you look at what's happening with price in our marketplace, we'll probably hit this again, but I mean, consider a couple of things. Number one, even though we just for 3 months in a row set our median home price record in central Indiana this summer, we're still the second most affordable of the 30 largest metropolitan markets in the country. And I'll post this article from Freddie Mac in the chat. I'm kind of a geek on this stuff. If you create a triangle in the middle of the country, from North Dakota down to Louisiana to Alabama up to Pennsylvania, basically the Midwest, and you take those 20 states, Freddie Mac measures inventory shortage in every state by state in this article. Of the 20 in the middle, we have the second largest shortage. Minnesota is the only state that has a more severe housing shortage than Indiana in the Midwest. So if you consider we just set record prices, we're still the second most affordable, and we have clearly a shortage that's even outpacing our peer states. Like, guys, prices are going to go up. They're going to keep going up. And I think we're in for a decade of significant price increase. Now, you have to be really careful when you're talking with a buyer because you can't advise a buyer to pay more than they're comfortable paying for a house just because you believe prices are going up. But sometimes sharing this information, kind of having that at your disposal, helps a buyer to make sense of what they're experiencing when they're competing against 10 offers.
Yeah.
This is, oh, it's not just this house. It's this larger condition that Indiana is in.
Yeah. And we can get in, I kind of mentioned it, but like the whole appraisal aspect is another wrinkle into this whole thing too, of course. But that's a meeting in itself. But of course.
I didn't answer that part of the question, Larry, because I figured there's probably at least one appraiser on the call. So I figured.
Yeah.
But
we've talked about rolling around an idea of a meeting in the future about that. So we're going to stay on inventory, kind of in the same vein of what we already talked about. So NAR just announced, last month announced that the Indy Carmel Anderson MSA was one of the 10 best markets in the US. First, for those who haven't read it and didn't see it, what does it exactly mean? Second, what can we do as professionals in our industry to make sure that we're staying healthy? We've kind of had some questions on here talking about, sustainable growth and LLCs, in-state, out-of-state flippers, et cetera. How can we kind of help keep this where we're at, right? We're in top 10 for a reason.
Well, this kind of echoes and continues on with Mark's, data about the shortage and the triangle of being in the Midwest. But the great thing is that, we have a lower cost of living than the coasts. So that's what is attracting a lot of people. I think one of the statistics was our unemployment rate is also lower than the average, right? So on Sunday, I'll just tell a quick story. I was at Target with my kiddos, and it was the usual college influx kind of in front of me of buying the mattress pad and the toaster and the detergent. And I looked, and this girl seemed a little, she was maybe college age, but not. She started drumming up with the cashier going, "Oh, I'm here for a job. I got a new job downtown Indy. I'm from Ohio, and that's what brought me here." And I kind of had to interject and say, "Hey, welcome. Welcome to Indianapolis. Downtown's awesome. You're going to have a great time. A little different than Ohio, but welcome to the city." So I think the second part of your question, you referenced, can you say that again? What was that second part of your question?
What can we do to help this stay healthy? How can we keep this and maybe move up the list, right? The list isn't really, it gave 10
Yeah.
cities, it didn't say what number we were, but
Right.
we want to stay in that number, right? So how can we do that?
My thoughts, Mark and Chris, I know you have thoughts, but it's not only, selling bricks and sticks, but, it's like loving where you live, right? We sell livability. So Larry, you live where you live for a certain reason, right? You like to run, you like to be outside. We want to live within a certain radius of places to go to and things to do. So it's not really just, we have to concentrate on not only the house, but the area around the house. And I don't know if, this made me think of RPAC. So I'm going to bring that up for a second, because, we've got a lot of lobbying that goes on at the national level to make sure that we stay relevant and we stay, essential. And we're lucky in Indiana because some other states weren't. Realtors were shut down in a lot of other states, deemed non-essential business. And so I was, on some forums, and, some realtors from some other states, forgive me, were like, "Hey guys, you can still sell houses in Indiana. We can't." One realtor was pulled over because she was going to check on a property, and it was like, "Hey, get back home. You're not essential." So we have to make sure that we not only focus on selling, the houses, but, focus on what's going on at a national level that are deemed essential, and we can keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, the RPAC piece of that is a huge part of this, obviously. And I think Lacey's on here, so she can kind of spread some love. And I'll find someone to message me about that article from NAR, and we'll get that sent out to people as well. But Chris or Mark, did you have thoughts? Expand upon that at all?
Well, I thought that the 10 best market thing, it said something about post-COVID, and we're Indianapolis, Anderson, Carmel, MSA, got ranked in their post-COVID market, and I'm not sure when post-COVID is going to be, but I think Indianapolis, Anderson, Carmel, that MSA is unique compared to a lot of, like you said, on the coast. We're not reliant on tourism. We're not reliant on a major part of our economy being service oriented. So I think that we're going to, pre-COVID, post-COVID, whatever, it's going to be strong, because we're not relying on tourism or the service type industries. The second question I thought was one of the most thought-provoking ones on the list. What can we do as real estate professionals to ensure that our market stays healthy? I think that was it was thought-provoking for me, and I kind of look at I think that we as agents, I commend the National Association of Realtors for redoing the code of ethics and adding some stuff in there that I support, that I think all agents should support. We just have to be good people. Like what Jen said, we have to give back to our communities. We have to be involved. We have to take our profession seriously. We have to be experts so that, our clients know they're getting good information.
Yeah.
But to me, it all boils down to, there's 8 or 10,000, something like that, realtors here in the city. And that's a pretty powerful voice. Or, if we all buy into being good people and doing the right thing, I do believe we can make a difference in our communities. And that's a major piece of, keeping the real estate market strong. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mark, I'll expand this question because I got a question that falls right in line, and the question here is referencing Center Township, and gentrification specifically with loss of low-income rental properties and stuff. That's kind of when I think about a healthy market. A healthy market doesn't mean our median price is $450,000. A healthy market means people who want to buy a house can, right? So how can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I was actually going to say, I think to answer a question about what can we do as realtors to help our market stay healthy or strong, you have to define the terms healthy and strong. Because I think a lot of times when members of the public ask us that, probably what they mean, will values continue to go up? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of consumers, that's what they mean when they say healthy or strong, is that our value is going to keep going up. Is my investment in the largest, the most valuable thing that I own, is my investment going to keep becoming more valuable? I actually think that is one of the safer bets in our marketplace right now. I think our role as realtors, our primary role as realtors is always going to be to service the need of our individual client, right? But if we have, as an industry, and I believe we do, have an opportunity to impact the housing landscape, so that each of us individually probably can't do much, but as a trade organization, we certainly can. I think right now in Indianapolis, the question is not how can, as a trade organization, we ensure prices stay strong. That's going to happen without us. I think the question is, as a trade organization, can we call attention to the fact that we think we've seen a big price increase over the last decade? People that bought 10 years ago versus now are blown away at what values are in certain parts of the city. Mm-hmm. And again, I think coming back to all the economic predictors, it would say the next 10 years is going to be notably higher appreciation. So I think one of the things we can do as a trade organization, as professionals, is call attention to that. I think you look at cities like Denver, Nashville, Austin, Portland, like you could say they're like aspirational cities maybe for Indianapolis. I think a lot of those cities got through this decade of radical price increase, and then everybody in hindsight said, we didn't see that coming. Well, there's enough examples of that around the country now that Indianapolis probably can't get away with saying that. In 2030, I don't think it's fair to say we didn't see it coming, that our median price was going to go to 325. Yeah. That's like impossible to imagine right now. So I think we call attention to the fact that the conditions are that prices are going to keep going up, and they could go up rapidly. We are not in control of that. As much as we like to think we control it, we don't.
Right.
Population growth, construction costs, there's all these other things that are way outside of our control, but calling attention to it can, I think, help our city realize we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Like we've got a problem coming in terms of affordability.
Yeah. Especially when you talk about, income diversity is what makes it traditionally a healthy neighborhood, right? You can't, an entire neighborhood of $600,000 homes of people that make that kind of money is not always the healthiest, of course. So, I do like we're kind of on a roller coaster, right? Where we really can't steer it in a direction. I don't like that word, but we're kind of holding on, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So kind of let's see, switching gears here. It's still Indianapolis focused, specifically on the development side. What are you guys excited about for the future of Indy? What do you think those things could mean for our market? Whether it's some things that come to my mind would be like BottleWorks, 16 Tech, equity and rising in homes and that sort of thing. what are your biggest, like the next 5-10 year goal? What are you most excited about that Indy has coming down the pipe? Chris, you can start with this one.
I think there's if you look at specifically downtown or area, what I really enjoy or what I appreciate is there are so many organizations down there and so many people down there promoting our city, trying to make it better. I look at some of the Fishers to Greenwood, and it doesn't seem like there's that much behind it in the outlying cities as there is just in downtown. So I feel really confident that we got a lot of good people down there pushing the development. I'm excited to see that there's new builders coming down there. Estridge is building a new community down there. I hope that the convention business comes back, which it will once we get through this. That I don't know if this is going to go or not, that Hilton Signa Hotel and the expansion of the convention center. Just bringing more people in to experience what Indianapolis has to offer, I think is a good thing. It brings in major corporations like Salesforce, and so I think there's the direction that it's going right now. I'm really confident it's going to be better in the future and than what it is right now. I think there was a time in this summer or this year where we were questioning the direction of downtown, and then a lot of cities were like that. But I think it's got all kinds of potential, and I am worried about the prices. I think Mark, he lives and breathes it down there, so he's probably better to speak on it than I am. But the prices everywhere, the affordability is a concern. It's not now, but it's going to be. And it could happen very quick.
Yeah,
we saw prices in some of our markets. I mean, literally going up by $100,000, a month, back in the day. And if you don't have any inventory, and you still have a lot of demand, I mean, that's just economics 101.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Jen? Obviously, your office sells the Mass Ave. Maybe one day they'll make it a full boulevard like it was during the pandemic. But what are you excited, I think, for features coming up the next 10 years?
Well, I think we've all seen it. We've all seen Bottle Works, right? I think that's a big, great new thing. And I just think back on 10 years ago when that was, and I'm sure some of you are going to get a good chuckle, but it was, the IPS bus barn. And, 5:30 a.m., all those IPS buses would rumble, and people that lived on the corner of 10th and College, their view was a bus rumbling at 5:30 in the morning with headlights flashing in their windows. And now they're going, look where I live. I live at the corner of 10th and College, and I've got this amazing new development. So, it's just going to take some time. And it's pretty cool space, and I can't wait. I know, Mark, I know you've got some space over there that you're probably excited to get into. And I did a yoga class last weekend at the yoga studio, and it was awesome just driving over there and going, holy smokes, check this out. But it's a collective effort, we've got city county councilmen, and we've got, Downtown Indy Inc., and we've got the Mass Ave Merchants Association, and collective of people. And so as long as you have the people that want to help drive this forward, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
We can all wish for it to get better or wish for change, but it takes a village. And to your point, Larry, about Mass Ave, it was awesome. But that took a lot of pushing to get those tents and to get those barriers to show, hey, we need this.
Yeah.
So,
and hopefully, the nice thing about Indy, right, is we're in a position where we can kind of help be a voice in that change. Like if you want these things, there's this infrastructure. And fortunately, through my board, we have a resource with, our economic development team and those sorts of things where we can lean on them to talk to the policymakers in place to get the things we want. Obviously, Mark, you have a place in Bottle Works. What else are you excited about, whether it's mass transit or anything else like that?
Yeah, BottleWorks is a really good one to start with. I mean, I think it lost a little bit of traction when, obviously the waterside development was kind of out there a lot and then disappeared. And it's now, I think there's going to be a great alternative there. But I think about the river, because you said 10 years. We kind of go on this, the White River becomes a key part of conversation for a minute in Indianapolis, and then it kind of fades and something else takes over. But the Row Initiative, Reclaiming Our Waterways, I think the White River presents this fascinating opportunity, particularly for the core of the city, that if we keep gaining the traction we are towards kind of reclaiming that for public use, I'm fascinated because y'all have been to cities that have, I was just recently in Dallas, also Scottsdale and Phoenix area comes to mind, San Antonio, these areas that have utilized waterways like that in a way that Indianapolis kind of missed the boat in terms of the way that we built our sewage system.
Right.
But that's what if you're talking 10 years, that's what I think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the river comes, I didn't even think about that, but if you traveled at all, I mean, most cities have a river that is a feature of their, a city, not just a thing you drive over, which is kind of what we are right now, right? Like I was just in Richmond not too long ago. The Richmond River the James River is a huge part of their culture there. So hopefully, in 10 years, and there's some people doing some great things as far as the whole from Noblesville down to Southside, projects and Dig Indian, etc. So let's see, did I have anything else from the chats from people that was super on point? Let's see, CJC, I'm not familiar with that project. So we'll get some rapid fire here because I don't know how many we have. New agents, that's the next question. So, and I'm sure Jake is on the call. Jake can talk to you about it later, but from MIBOR, we see a number of large new agents every year, month. I'm sure like in the peak, we're talking 100, 130 probably agents every month, right? Rolling out. What kind of conversations have you had over the last year? Obviously, we've talked about the fact that we were able to still work in a pandemic and those sorts of things, but open houses were restricted. If you were an agent and that's how you built the backbone of your business, how did you kind of coach them in that? What do you think their challenges are going to be for 2021? So you just got your license in November. Welcome to the world of real estate. How does that look for them? And whoever wants to take it can take it.
Okay, I'll go. Really with new agents coming in, it was one, they didn't know any different, right? So there really wasn't a pre-COVID, but honestly, it was just, let's set your goals. Let's keep your eye on the prize. Yeah, we're going to have to change how we do things a little bit, and technology is going to come into play, but we're lucky we have the technology. This isn't back in the 80s when you had to drive around to every listing office, pick up the keys, go show the houses, and then take the keys back. I mean, you tell agents that now, it's like, what? People had to do that? Yeah. So we've got the technology at our advantage to, do the virtual open houses, to use it to our advantage to get into the homes and, get a hold of that PPE once we were able to do it, and just pivot a little bit, change the way, that there were different ways people were doing. Door knocking did not look the same this last 9 months as it did before. Yeah. It wasn't, you're knocking on someone's door, they're not going to answer. Like, I don't know.
If someone would have knocked at my door, I would have talked to them through my Ring doorbell.
Exactly. So we're finding different ways for new agents to get out there, but it's just changing it up a little bit, but not a lot. I wouldn't say, Mark and Chris, maybe I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I don't want to say it's changed too terribly. Mm-hmm. That you're coaching your agents to do the same things. Right. but just in a little different way.
Yeah, I think about 2008. It is a little bit of irony, Larry, that in 2008, people kind of joked about that's when I got licensed. In hindsight, sometimes people say like, "Oh, what a terrible time to get into real estate." When in actuality, that was probably the perfect time. I didn't know that, but agent count was going down, and it was a fantastic time to work with buyers, which is what most new agents do.
Mhm.
Right now, agent count is going up, and the service we provide to buyers is incredibly important right now, but it sucks. Like working with buyers is really hard. And so it's a challenging time to get in, but that doesn't mean there's not opportunity. It license count and transaction count, I don't know if you guys know this, like nationally, transaction count and license count, they stay correlated to each other once you zoom out enough. So the number of deals that happen per realtor actually stay relatively consistent year by year. And so you always have a pretty similar opportunity. I would say that the one thing I would tell new agents, do the stuff that you believe has a 2 or 3 year return. If you're spending time doing things that pay off in 2 or 3 years and that's your mentality, I think you're thinking about it correctly. Our industry, it's not really a secret, guys. I think people know this. In the first 2 years of someone being a professional in our industry, the turnover is terrible. People get into and out of our industry very, very quickly. By the time someone makes it to the end of their 3rd year, our turnover as an industry is actually really good. In other words, by the time you're at the end of year 3, you're highly likely to stay in the industry for a long time. And so I think if people can come in with that expectation, and to Jen's point, I totally agree, Jen, there's nothing new about this. It feels different right now when you're working with a buyer and you've written 5 offers and you haven't been able to get a house for them yet. But if you're focused on that 3-year run, I think you're able to take that more in stride. And I don't know if our industry does a great job of coaching people in terms of expectations. I mean, we try to get better at that. I know Chris and Jen probably try to get better at this, but helping people understand your first 2 years might be really hard, and it doesn't mean you're bad at this job. A lot of people have to get into years 3 and 4 before it really starts to catch and pay off.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think excuse me. I was just talking to an agent that's moving here from Miami this morning, and I if I didn't say it a dozen times, I said it 20 of just how challenging to get into real estate it is, and especially when you're moving from a new market that you have no sphere. But I think just trying to set the right expectations with new agents of what it's going to take. And I think Mark, you bring up 2 or 3 years is on point. The expectations are, you're not going to get a paycheck probably for a little while. And the things that you're doing today might not pay off for a year or 2. And, so we've been conscious of that. I think, in the current market, I think it's very challenging for a brand new agent to come in without having a great support team around them, because they're going to have to look that buyer in the eye and convince them that they know the market. Even though they only have 1 or 2 deals under their belt, or maybe 0, when they look that buyer in the eye and say, you're going to have to go 10,000 above list. I need you to write a 2-page sappy letter to the sellers. I need you to waive your inspection and give extra earnest money. Unless the client is in tune with the market, they're going to look at that person and probably say, you're crazy. But experienced agents, they can pull that off. And so I think that's a challenge that new agents will have to overcome, and they're going to have to overcome it for a long time, I think. And that's the responsibility of the brokerage and in the leadership and even my boards, teaching agents, how to become market experts. You have to dive in. You can't. This job on a part-time basis is really tough, in my opinion, because, you know, you're not out there, you're not in the market, you're not visiting builders, you're not going doing open houses, you're not living it every day. And if you're not living this every day, you're not going to have a good chance of winning those offers. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you know, and it's all, I mean, the thing that I think about with the, you know, you are the company that you keep, right? Is that, you know, we've all heard that many times. And if you're a new agent and, you know, I can't imagine it's difficult in its own sense, but starting in a pandemic where you can't be in the office with other agents, you know, that's just another hurdle, of course. So obviously virtual helps, but kind of staking that same, I mean, it's a little different. Online marketplace, we've kind of mentioned it, kind of skirted around it. I won't say the names that I'm thinking of, but with 2020 being growing virtual and, you know, everything kind of moving that way, right? Like you can order your groceries and they get delivered on your smartphone, never talk to a human, all these things. We talk about online companies gaining market share every year. Has the pandemic changed that? Are agents and the relationships more important than ever? You know, what's the long-term goal with that, or fear, I guess, of that? Jen, you can start.
Well, I had some thoughts, and, you know, as we all think about this, you know, buyers especially, they're searching for that property and they're on their phone like nobody's business. I mean, technology, I mean, all the brokerages on here represented, we've been online, we've been virtual for years.
Yes.
So there's in my mind, I don't think there's really any change in that. You know, buyers usually find a property before we do, because they're on their device going, I found this house I want to see. I mean, how many agents up here, you know, get a text from their buyer going, this house just popped up, I want to see it. And you're like, dang, I was looking for you, but you found it before I did. So from my point of view, our expertise is, you know, they're gonna go online, they're gonna find that property. If the photos are the first showing, and I'll say this time and time again, the photos are a buyer's first showing on a property. So, you know, killer photos are going to sell it, and then they're going to decide whether or not they want to see it. And that's when our expertise comes into play, to echo what Mark and Chris said, of knowing how to write that winning offer when we're competing against 10 others. So we've been in a digital virtual space for a while. It's just how we utilize it and how we dive in.
Yeah.
My thoughts on that.
I think that's fair. Yeah. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think about this in terms of tiers, and you referenced, Larry, a couple times, things that we could have a whole call about. This is probably one of them.
Yep.
Like, you know, the internet changed our industry. Everybody knows that. It changed pretty much every industry, but it certainly changed ours. And I think one of the things that it did, it changed the nature of the relationship between brokerage and realtor. Realtors rely on brokerages for different things than they used to. You've referenced some virtually based brokerages, but I think the internet gave the realtor power to do some things as an individual that they didn't have prior, and that they don't necessarily need a company behind them to do. I think there's still a very important role there, but it changed the nature of that relationship. Where I think this is headed, somebody posted a question about Zillow. It's so interesting, for all the conversation about this, the nature of the relationship between the client and the realtor, it looks different, but it's still essentially the same that it's always been. We can't really talk about compensation here, but that's revenue is a part of this. But I think that's what's about to change. And that's maybe where a lot of the fear comes in. And I would just say my encouragement to realtors, as the world continues to go more virtual and more technology based, in the long run, you win from this. Not to fear the advancement. In the long run, this works to everyone's benefit. There is I think I talked about this on that podcast, the concept of creative destruction. When things are created, something else tends to be destroyed, and we fear that. So there could be some things that are true about the industry today that won't always be true, but that in the long run, that actually benefits everybody involved. And there will always be value to a human being that builds an expertise and will provide a service to another human being based upon that expertise. Do I know what that's going to look like? No, but I am confident in saying that if you build an expertise and are willing to provide good service out of that expertise, you're going to be valuable.
Yeah.
So to kind of focus on that and view technology and advancement as a good thing for you and the client, which I believe that it is. A realtor in 1985 would look at 2020 maybe and say like, oh, that's not very good. But to Jen's point, in 2020, I'm like, oh, I would not want to do real estate in 1985.
Yeah. I think, I mean, and, you know, and I'll get to you, Chris, but, you know, this is kind of a question really about relationships. This whole thing's relationships, right? It's what we talked about at the very beginning of this call is reaching out to your clients because you care about them, not because you want transactions. And if they're using online resources to find homes and you have a good relationship with them, then it's benefiting you as the agent in the situation anyway, right? Chris, what are your thoughts on the online world when it comes to listings and you know, that kind of stuff?
Well, I think the second part of that question, are agents and relationships more important than ever? I've been doing this for 20 years and I don't think they're more important than ever. I think they've always been really important and they will continue to be really important. And, you know, I think 2020 gave us an opportunity to strengthen the relationships that we have. And hopefully most agents took advantage of that. I agree with Mark. I think technology used to be a competitive advantage, maybe for some brokerages. It's, in my opinion, it's not anymore. Now it's, you know, the relationships has never came off of that top tier, no matter what technology you put behind it. And maybe there's smarter people out there than I that can predict that we're not going to need realtors or relationships and we'll just be clicking a button and buying and selling houses. I cannot foresee that. I think that there's always going to be, you know, just like Jen said, people are finding the homes before we are. They're finding them, but they need help. They need guidance. And even if they don't need guidance or help, they still need someone to reinforce that they're making the right decision, you know, a lot of times. And I don't think that's going to stop for as long as I can foresee. So, yeah.
I think I think it's more important, right? Like, I think of technology, I mean, it's a tool, right? Take someone who's in construction, they may have used a handheld, you know, a manual saw in 1940 to cut their 2x4s. Now they're using a miter saw or whatever, right? That's technology for us. We can leverage that with our clients. So let's see if we have any, that's kind of the questions I had queued up. I'm going to see if we had anything that was kind of, you know, expand upon. And I kind of touched on it. We had one up here that I really liked. We talked about gentrification a little bit, but not much. And the question was about Center Township, but I think it's going to be applied to the whole Marion County area. How do we advocate for income diversity, right? Especially when it comes to, like, just talk about flipping properties, right? You know, statistics day, and we can, you know, talk about it or not. Unfortunately, I was in Real, they talked about it through Real, but most people who are displaced are renters, not typically homeowners. And it's beneficial to homeowners if values go up. So how can we, as an agent pool, kind of help prevent people from being priced out of areas? Should we be even in that conversation, I guess, is the bigger question.
I absolutely need to play a, you know, instrumental part in that conversation. And a lot of it is about attainability. It's a huge word. It's not just affordability, but it's attainability. And some renters, a big piece of it is about education. So we're finding people that are becoming homeowners now. They're the first person in their in their first generation of their family to be a homeowner because they never thought it was attainable because everybody just rented and that's what you did. And so INHP plays a big part of that. We've also got a lot. I mean, my board provides so many resources and help to educate and to guide people in the path to home ownership. I mean, look at the Realtor Foundation. And there's a lot that can be done, and we have a long runway in education and helping people and attainability. And a lot of it too comes down to, look, the city is going to get, any municipality is going to get more tax revenue from a more expensive house, right? So the more expensive the house they can put on a smaller plot of land, they're going to get more tax revenue from that. And then you also look at the tax revenue that they're going to get from a rental property versus a single family owned property. It's double, because you're losing that homestead exemption. So there's a lot to digest, and this, like all the other questions, we can talk on this for hours, because I'm sure you guys could. But I think a big piece is attainability and education.
Yeah, I think, and this is, kind of spurring off from this question, I'm thinking, and it's older news now, but there's a number of articles about housing discrimination and redlining or agent discrimination. I'm sure we've all referenced the NAR article. We've seen it by now. I think it was Maryland.
The Newsday videos.
Yes, the Newsday videos. This comes to mind too. Kind of what conversations are you guys having at the broker level? Obviously, MIBOR has a lot of this conversation, and they're doing a good job, and so is NAR. They realize it's important, but really, it's your guys' bigger job to make sure this is happening. So how do you have that conversation with your brokerage, Mark, on how you should have conversations with clients?
I think the first thing that Jen said, I would totally agree with. It's vital that we're in this conversation. Look, I think there's a good sensitivity to, I have heard realtors say things like, look, we can't control a marketplace. We don't set prices, the market sets prices. I agree. Chris referenced supply and demand earlier. Yes, that is what happens. But I think if you look at the history of our industry, we don't have the right to say, oh, we can't or won't engage, because our industry, like, let's just be honest, for decades played a significantly negative part in a lack of equity in homeownership. It's just, our industry did. We have to acknowledge that. And look, I'm not the expert here. I'm still trying to learn. We had someone from the Indiana Historical Society do a Zoom training with our brokerage on the history of redlining in Indianapolis specifically.
Yeah, Jordan, right?
Yeah. Yep. And it was fantastic. I learned several things from that call. So Jen, I'm echoing here what Jen said about education. I think that's a part of our responsibility, is that Steph earlier in the chat mentioned this. We have to keep informing ourselves and never view this as something that we arrive at the understanding of, because I think the more we learn about the history of our industry and the lack of equity and homeownership that exists in our own city, the more we realize we have to learn, right? The more we learn, the more that we learn how much we are unaware. And two, I think Larry and Jen both referenced the story from the East Coast. My guess is that if we got to meet the realtors that were involved in that, we would probably say, no, these are all nice people who would never intend to discriminate in their business practices.
Yes.
And I bet that's true of everybody here on the call. So advancing in our own education and understanding, just because I wouldn't want to discriminate doesn't mean that I won't. So if it's one word, it's learning, or maybe listening is a better word, trying to better understand the history of our industry and how far we have to go. We have a long way to grow. I also think being aware, Jen mentioned INHP. There are several community development corporations. David Price, who's here on the call, used to work at Inglewood, is one good example. Habitat for Humanity. Learning what some of the nonprofit housing providers are doing in the city, and how can we as realtors be supportive of that. This is I'm not super involved in the Realtor Foundation, but this is a good chance for those who are to plug the Realtor Foundation in its work towards providing homeownership opportunities. So learning about those.
Yeah. I all those things. I think, and I just saw Steph mentioned it. Not only is this kind of conversation for what you do in your professional life, but also it's a conversation we should be having with ourselves on a personal level too, right? That's, I think, the bigger thing. So we're running short on time. So I need, and I have a couple other housekeeping moments. So thanks, first of all three of you guys for the education. Hopefully someone got something out of this other than just listening to us chat. I really appreciate it. So we have, actually, Rosie, if you could pop up the slide, of course. So our next meeting is going to be specific to our footprint, of course. We're having Meg Pernsley chatting about listing and selling in historic neighborhoods. As someone who lives in a historic neighborhood, it's a different beast, of course. So we're going to have that next month. We've got some exciting things lined up for the rest of the year, of course, as well. And let's see. So I'll have Jake. Is Jake on here? Jake. Oh, yes, as well. Jen, before we go to Jake, can you give us an update on the old Venmo? And then anyone out there, I've not seen, I can't really, some people don't have their camera on. If anyone is with multiple people on their Zoom, once again, please message Rosie your MyBoard number. That'd be great.
We are at 55 right now.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. $55. So do you remember off the top of your head how much we gave away last year at the end of the year?
Oh, gosh,
I think it was 2,500, right?
that could be the number. Sounds about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Laura just confirmed 2,500.
Oh, yes. Great. Perfect. All right, Jake. Jake, and then Gabby, if you'd like to speak as well, you can, whichever Jake or Gabby, whoever's ready.
I don't mind kicking it off, and then I can hand it off to Gabby at the end. That's fine.
Perfect. And then anyone, and you can also, if RPAC, I don't know if you're doing the RPAC announcement stuff too. So
Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it. I always love hearing all you guys are doing. It has been a really weird year, and it's awesome to hear all the great ideas and what you've done. And I'm excited to see 2021. Hopefully some of the ideas don't have to come into play, but it's good to see that you're also prepared for it. I want to start off by talking about Mark. He's a humble guy, but his podcast is really interesting. You guys should all give it a listen. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on SoundCloud. You can go to myboard.com/podcast to give it a listen. It's great. Just do that for me. Do it for Mark. He'll appreciate it. MyBoard has been closed as COVID-19, the building has been closed as COVID continues to be a concern across the country. And as we enter into the holiday season, that's all passed. The flu season's still here. MyBoard will be closed until the 19th of this month. Continue to expect the same service MyBoard is always offered through our help desk, and all employees will be working remotely until the 19th. For technology, it's good to start the new year off right. Learn everything you need to use effectively for your MyBoard market insights and realist tools to positively impact your business. Join us Tuesday, January 12th from 1 to 2 for your MyBoard market insights tools, ways to effectively use them with clients and prospects. You can join Amy Ginos from Domus Analytics for a fun, informative live session on how to use the market insights tool on your dashboard. And we'll go through examples on what each tool would be used for in different conditions that they'll benefit you. And you can keep that momentum going by joining on January 26th for understanding Realist and how to use the tax and public record system to its fullest. You can go to myboard.com/events or myboard.com/technology to register for any of our classes. So MyBoard is now moving over to Growth Zone. It's mostly an internal thing, but we're transitioning to an entirely new member database software. And that, again, that's an internal change, but all of our staff are having to relearn and learn new technologies through this transition. So we thank you for remaining patient with us as we all adapt. For MPro, let's kickstart the 2021 year by making a commitment to learning more and dedicating time to be an even better professional realtor. Join the growing list of members who have already completed the MyBoard Master Professional Certification Program, or MPro for short. Our next MPro Bootcamp will take place virtually February 22nd to the 26th. Some of the activities you're doing already, like attending MyBoard division meetings or taking tech trainings, can count towards this certification. If you've completed NARC 2EX, then you're able to become MPro Plus certified, which comes with several more benefits. To learn more, go to myboard.com/mpro. The best way to increase and enhance the professionalism in our industry is to lead by example. So sign up today. For economic development, MyBoard is continuing our long history of making economic and community development investments across the service area. The MyBoard Economic and Community Development Council will evaluate and guide investments that contribute to a more efficient marketplace and strengthen communities in Central Indiana. Placemaking projects, talent attraction and retention efforts, quality of life, and quality of place programs. Those are the types of investments we aim to make. How can you help? Consider your connections with your community. Help us identify projects or programs the council should consider. We will keep you plugged in and engaged so we can share our successes. Together, we can make a big impact. More info will be available soon at myboard.com/gov and community relations. RPAC trustees, anybody? Anybody want to hop in for me? Then I'm going to keep reading. RPAC is responsible for securing your livelihood, protecting home ownership, and preserving real estate market efficiencies. Investing in RPAC is your responsibility. When we work together with 1.4 million members nationwide, our voice is heard loud and clear at the local, state, and national level. There's no question that your communities and industries are stronger for it. You can invest at myboard.com/RPAC. With auto renewal, you can set yourself up to reach a goal investment by the end of November 2021. Invest $23 a month and become a Capital Club member, $45 a month, become an RPAC 500 Club member, or $84 a month and become an RPAC major investor. You can go to myboard.com/RPAC again to invest, do any of that. And that's it. Gabby, I'm handing you the baton.
Thanks, Jake. Good afternoon, downtown. I just want to give you a quick update from the Realtor Foundation. I want to thank everybody for all of your generous contributions. Thanks to your donation as a division, all of your individual contributions and your corporate contributions, we granted over $255,000 to 23 local charities serving victims of domestic violence, homeless families, veterans, homeless youth, and our city's really most vulnerable neighbors. And that was a huge leap from what we have been able to grant for the past 2 years. And so it just fills my heart to have so many generous friends in our industry who really care about helping the most vulnerable among us and helping our neighbors who need the help. Specific to your downtown division, I just wanted to bring your attention to a new grantee of ours, which is Brookside Community Development, which is a grant specifically to help families in that neighborhood avoid eviction. So that's a new and exciting grant for us. Really, I thought you guys would be excited about getting a really good connection, especially for your kiddos who are at Brookside Elementary School, whose families probably really need some of that help. Normally, I would be talking to you about registering and getting your ticket for the ball. That is still happening. There is still a ball. On January 23rd. It's all virtual. Join us from your home. You can get access for free, but we are asking for a contribution in lieu of a ticket. And what we're doing is applying our catering budget to meals for all of our grantees. So that day we'll also be serving the chicken dinner you would have enjoyed at the Indiana Ballroom all the families at Dayspring Center and Holy Family Shelter and HVAC will be able to enjoy those delicious meals as a nice little treat. For those of you who are dying for live entertainment, we do have the band duo Dave and Ray will be performing live on the Indiana Roof Ballroom stage, and we will be including that in part of our pre-show and post-show. So you'll get that live entertainment feeling, but from your couch on your iPad. You can register for the ball at www.bit.ly/ball2021 or go to the Realtor Foundation website and you can get the links from there. But you definitely want to register in advance. We've got our incoming president, Regina Jones, my board's incoming president, Regina Jones, our live auction with Todd and Terry, and the industry awards. Those will all be included just like our normal ball program would be. Thanks, downtown.
Thank you, Gabby and Jake. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the donations. We're at 320. That's a lot. That's amazing. I really appreciate you guys joining. I'm, obviously bummed that we could not be in person, but I'm glad that we could still meet virtually. That's going to stay the same. We tried a hybrid format. We're just going to stay virtual until we don't have to be virtual anymore. That's the plan for now, as everything changes. So hope to see you next month for our historical conversation. Otherwise, have a great day, great new year. Hopefully we'll see you virtually at the ball. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jen. I don't know if Mark and Chris are still on here. Thanks, guys. That was great.
Great, Larry. Wow. We had 200 plus folks on at one time.
That's insane. What a world. What a world. Yeah, thanks, Crystal, for manning the chat too. I don't know if she's still on here. But wonderful, wonderful. All right, guys. Thanks, Rosie.
Welcome. Have a good one, Larry.
Yeah, you too.